What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. For today's video I am super excited to show you my all new bike. Not this one actually, but this one. Propain has just launched the all new Spindrift. That is the 5th version and everybody's been waiting for it, including myself. In this video I'm gonna tell you everything there is to know about this bike, but first let's go ride. To understand the new Spindrift 5, well, we need to look at the previous version. So the Spindrift 4 from Propain is a freeride bike and it came out in 2020. And it is one of the big reasons of why I joined Propain. I was looking for a bike that's gonna be very capable, but also easy to pedal. And this bike is fun, it's light, it's reliable, basically does everything I needed to do. But the bike I've been riding is in fact a little bit different from the one that customers buy, so let me show you why. The Spindrift 4, just like the Spindrift 5, comes in different options. In terms of materials, you got aluminium or carbon. I've never ridden the aluminium, I've always chosen the carbon because it's a bit lighter and I like how the material feels. It's very suitable for what I like to do. Now in terms of sizes, obviously small, medium, large, extra large. I am 5'7", which is 1 meter 70 centimeters, and I've chosen a size medium. That's what I ride for all my Propain bikes. But now in terms of wheel sizes, Propain came out with a 29er version, a mullet version, and a 27.5 if you want to be full freeride. If you follow the channel for a while, you know how much I like the mullet, mostly because I'm short, and for me having the comfort and the performance of a 29 front wheel paired with a smaller wheel on the back, so 27.5, so I can get basically maximum mobility on the bike. I can squat as deep as possible and essentially I have more space between my butt and the rear tire, which makes the bike so much more capable when it gets super steep and gnarly or when there is massive compressions. So naturally I ordered a mullet frame, which is a 29 front triangle paired with a 27.5 rear triangle. The problem with that is that the chainstays were 10 mm shorter to the chainstays I had on my Propain Tae, which is probably the bike I was riding the most at the time. When I moved from Cube to Propain, one of the big difference was the chainstays were longer on Propain bikes. And at first I was a little bit worried, but turns out I absolutely loved it. I love how much more stable it is, how much more planted the bike is. I felt I was getting better performance on the bike while still having a ton of fun. The bike was super playful, and so I got really hooked on those 445 mm chainstays. So when I tried the bike as a mullet setup, I thought the rear was too short. I wasn't as comfortable as on my Tae. So I called Propain and asked for a full 29er frame, which they sent me, and I started to experiment. I built a 29er frame with a small wheel on the back, and right away I felt better. The bike was more stable, still very playful because of the small wheel, but then the bottom bracket was a little bit low and the front of the bike was slacker, which I really liked anyway. I thought that on the mullet version the bike was a little bit too steep, and for the type of terrain I ride here, I like when the bike is really slack. So then I started to play around. I put a little spacer above the crown to raise the front end and make the bike even slacker, and also raise the bottom bracket, which worked out really well. But then the cockpit felt too short. When you do that, you essentially make the reach shorter. So what I did is that I ordered from Works Components what's called a reach adjuster, which is that headset that push either forward or backward the steer tube if you want to make the bike either longer or shorter. So by doing that, I was able to get back to a reach at about 450 mm while raising the front end, making the bike slacker, raising the bottom bracket, and having those longer chainstays. For me, that's been awesome. I flew to Germany and I met with Claudio, which is the engineer behind the Spindrift, and he looked at my bike. He ended up doing the same on his own bike and he really enjoyed it. And that's pretty awesome. The reason why I wanted to tell you that story is because a lot of those modifications are something that heavily influence the new Spindrift 5 that we're gonna look at right now. Let's talk about geometry on that new Spindrift 5. Well, this bike is definitely longer and bigger than the old one. The reach on a size medium is now 460 mm, which is 10 mm longer than the old version. Head tube angle, you got 63.5 degrees of slack, whereas before you had 64.5. Just this makes this bike much more stable and feel more safe and faster than the old one. It's something I really liked. As mentioned, I felt like the previous bike was a bit short for me. Now I feel like this bike definitely can ride at higher speed and give me extra confidence. Another big modification is the seat tube insertion. It's been a complaint in the past, including from myself. I actually had to run a 150 mm dropper from one up before, whereas now I can run a 180 mm dropper. I don't even have to use shims. I can use it at full extension and it is not perfect for me. This is like as low as it goes on the frame. That allows me to get the seat super low when I go downhill and have the perfect pedaling position when I go uphill. We have now the 445 mm chainstays, and there is no longer options of 29 frames or mullet frames. Now it is the same frame and you got the same flip chip as you find on the Icano 2 CF or the Tai, which I think is an amazing idea. It is more simple for customers, and for Propain you get one frame that does both wheel sizes and it works great. Also, if you're a customer and you decide to purchase a 29er and down the line you want to try a mullet setup, all you have to do is flip the switch and use a different rear wheel, which I think is a fantastic idea. Seat tube angle, pretty similar to the previous version. Overall, what's important to notice is that the bike is definitely bigger. In terms of wheelbase, this one is 1255 mm, whereas my previous version was 1235 mm stock and my setup was 1240 mm. So those extra 15 to 20 mm really do make a big difference, and for me it's been a really big improvement and I really feel that on the trail. I feel like the extra speed and confidence, especially when it's chunky and quick, has been very noticeable. So now we've chatted about geometry, let's look at the suspension. Obviously we've got that Pro 10 platform, but the big difference between the two bikes is that you can see the shock is angled a little bit toward the front. So by doing that, Propain has made the bike a tiny bit more progressive, which I really enjoy. There's a ton of support and there is that bottomless feeling. On big compression, it really doesn't feel like the bike is G out. It really feels smooth along the entire travel. But the main reason why Propain did that is so they can have a deeper insertion for the seat tube, as mentioned before. Now let's look at the feature. We're gonna start with the front of the bike. The big one, and I know that was a huge concern for a lot of customers, is the cable routing. So when Propain came out with the Tai, in the Thai 6 in April of 2023. They put the cables through the headset, which a lot of people were upset about, and myself, I was very skeptical, but I got used to it, like everything, and honestly, I really like it. It's super tidy, it goes through the headset, there's no cables moving, the cables are routed better onto the frame, so there is less movement going on, less noise. I think it's a really good system. On this frame now, there's 3 options. Either you mount them onto the sides of the frame, like most brands do, through the headset, or with a 6-pack stem, which is even tidier. But myself, I prefer to run that 1-up stem. And the reason why I put the cables through the side and not inside the headset is because I didn't know if I was gonna use a reach adjuster or not. I thought because the reach of the frame was longer, I might want to run the frame 5 mm shorter. So that's why I put the cable on the side. Now if we go to the middle of the bike, another very obvious change compared to the old one is the frame storage. Now onto the down tube, you can store stuff such as tools, tube, food, maybe a windbreaker. It's nothing new, it exists with some other brands, but Propain have taken exactly the same design as on their gravel bike, the Terrell. It's just a slider, very easy to use. You remove the cap, put or take whatever you want from the frame, and I think it's awesome they've added that. I'm definitely gonna use it, and it also comes with 2 little bags, so it's not gonna be noisy inside your frame. Talking about noise, now the cables go through 2 channels onto the down tube, which makes the bike insanely quiet. When I built the bike though, I missed those 2 channels, didn't see them, and so when I started filming, the bike was a little bit noisy, but now I've fixed everything. I taped the cables onto the down tube. This is only a short-term fix. When I have time, I'll reroute everything properly, but this bike is insanely quiet, especially compared to the other one, which was definitely a concern from a few people. This bike is super quiet, and I think it's really awesome. And one of the reasons why it's more quiet is also because it's got a better chainstay protector and seat stay protector. It's got a softer material. And yeah, that's about it for the feature. Obviously, we've got the flip chip as mentioned. That's about it. Now let's go on to the bike check. In terms of bike check, there is actually not much difference between my Spindrift 4 and my Spindrift 5. But let's take a look at all the components I run and how I set them up so I can get the best out of my bike. Let's start with the front of the bike. So for the fork, I've got a Onyx D1. This is a 180mm travel, 38mm diameter. I really like how there's that extra rigidity from the previous version I've had. This is a SL, there's no more OTT on this one. And in terms of settings, I run 72 PSI with 2 volume spacers. My low speed and high speed compression is fairly open to keep it light on the end. And overall, front and back, I run a rebound that's fairly fast just to keep the bike super active and playful. The shock is a DVO Topaz, that's the new one with the low speed and high speed compression. I'm still playing with those settings, especially since it's a new bike, but I run it fairly open, and I run 2 volume spacer onto the positive chamber and 185 PSI. The cockpit of a bike is something that complements the geometry, and that's absolutely essential to me. I put so much effort into dialing everything. I think it's really, really important, and to me it can make or break the experience I have on a bike. So I also like to keep it consistent with all the bike. So same as the previous model, I ride for 1-up components. They are a Squamish company, they make awesome products. I run their 35mm stem with their new E-bar 35mm rise. I love how compliant they are. I love the visual aspect of it, and I cut those bars at 745mm. It's a question that I get asked all the time, is the length of my bars, and you know, the answer I have for people is that you should cut your bars based on how wide are your shoulders mostly. I'm a small guy, so for me riding 745mm bars allows me to get a really strong position on those big compression. I can move around trees pretty quickly, If I had a wider bar, it would be more time and effort to move the bike around. And also it is a position that's gonna be the most comfortable for me for long downhill, for my shoulders and for my back. Talking about one-off components, I've also got their all new V3 seat post, 180mm travel. You can shim that post down to 170 or 160, which I had to do in the past on some bikes. But on this one, since the insertion is deeper, I no longer have to do that and I can use the full travel, and it's been awesome. To finish on the cockpit, I've got the all new Ergon GDH grips. I've been working with Ergon for the past 7 years and they put a lot of effort on their research and development. And those grips are some of their best sellers, and it's no surprise to me because they are absolutely phenomenal. You got that same ergonomic shape that Ergon is known for. You got the padding here to make it comfortable on your hands. The diamond, I guess, structure or whatever you call it to give you some precision, and the waffle at the bottom for extra grip. They work really well with or without gloves, and I've paired it with the SM Enduro Pro TI saddle. This is a size small medium for the same reason as I cut my bar short. My butt is pretty tiny, so I go for the small medium seat. I've got the all slick rails. It matches perfectly the lock-on from Ergon, but also some other components I've got on the bike, such as the brakes, the pedal, the chain and the cassette. For brakes, nothing new here. I've been with the Ace Dominion A4 for the past 6 years. I absolutely love those brakes. The pull is extremely light. It is very easy to modulate the power. They are extremely powerful. I run the 203mm disc on every bike, including my downhill bike and my e-bike. The 220 will be simply too much power for me. My buddy Steve Van Der Hoek has tried the 220 and he actually went back down to the 203 just because the power was too much for his liking. I run the sintered brake pads and they've been extremely reliable, extremely consistent, and yeah, they've been absolutely phenomenal. I truly think that they allowed my riding to get better. The confidence I have now on braking is something that I'd never experienced before. And yeah, they've been incredible. By the way, if you want to check out and get a pair, I've got a code, so make sure you check out the links in the description. You can get plenty of discount on a lot of the products I run. Now let's move to the transmission. For transmission, I run a 12-speed setup. I don't actually have a partner for shifter and rear there. So I go on backcountry.com, which is one of my partners, and I just purchased a Shimano XT dare and shifter. It is affordable, reliable, it works well, it's simple. I've been having that on all my bikes and it's been great. I use a KMC 12-speed SL chain. Those chains have been extremely reliable. In fact, I have never broken any in the past 7 or 8 years that I'm riding KMC. It's paired with a E13 Helix R cassette. This is a 945 teeth, so it's quite a wide range. Intergalactic, so it matches the rest of the components. And for cranks, I've got the rotor Capic. I actually went down to 165mm lengths. I used to run 170 a couple of years ago, but the 165, especially with bottom bracket being lower, gives me more clearance and it's just more enjoyable on the technical uphill. And I run a 30 teeth oval chainring. The advantage of the oval chainring is that you get a more consistent pedaling feel when it's like slow and technical. You get better control of the traction, and I like the 30 teeth because it increases the clearance of my bike. So when I ride the super steep technical lines, I'm less likely to touch the ground, but I still run a E13 Vario chain guide just in case. Now let's move to the wheels. For wheels, I've got something pretty special on here. Unfortunately, I can't tell you too much right now, but I've done a full video that will come out in a few weeks from now. You'll see it's really cool. I think E13 has absolutely killed it with that. In the past, I was riding the E13 LG1R EN or grappler wheels. They're great, super reliable, but those new wheels are super innovative. There is some information online. World Cup riders absolutely love it, so do I. I think it's pretty epic what E13 has done, and I truly think it's an amazing product, and I look forward to see it go on the market. Now let's talk about the tire setup. For tires, I've got my classic setup, Maxxis Assegai front, 3C grip, Maxxis DHR 2 on the back, also 3C grip. I've chosen to run on this bike the double down casing, mostly because I have to pedal. So I want to keep the bike light. I haven't weighted the bike, but I assume it's around 15 kilo as it is with pedals and empty water bottle, which is very light for a 180mm bike. I do prefer the downhill casing. Downhill casing is gonna provide you more reliability, more support. You can go down in tire pressure, and therefore you're gonna be able to get more grips. I find that the bike is gonna stay more online, it's gonna feel more stable, it's gonna deflect a bit less with the downhill casing. But as mentioned, even though it's a freeride bike, I'm still pedaling up the hill, so I wanted to keep the bike light. That's why I went with the double down. I am 142 pounds, and right now in the summer in Squamish, I run 20 psi front, 22 psi rear, and I have no issue whatsoever with reliability. So it's been an incredible setup. Another product that you've seen me ride on every bike I own, those time pedals. Those are the new Special 10. They are more affordable than the 12, super reliable. I love the feeling of the attack system. It is very progressive when you clipped in and your foot has a lot of mobility. You can really feel when it's about to unclip. I run the pins just on the back, that way I can get extra traction, but I can slide into the pedal easily. They come in different color. That purple matches really well some of the other accessories I have. So now on to other little things. I've got that Camelback Podium water bottle. Camelback actually printed it with the backcountry logo, which is, as mentioned, one of my partners. And if you look at it, so we've got the frame storage below, but I've got a topic cage with a little tool right there. Really cool. That's a Nano 11 function. It's awesome to adjust anything on the bike, brake angle or anything like that. And a last thing, I've got my mudhugger. This is one of the products that everybody should have on their bike. Whether it's wet or not, it makes a lot of difference, obviously, when it's wet for how much visibility you're gonna be able to get when you ride the bike, but also it does protect the seals of your fork. It's a super well designed product. It's really simple. Make sure you get one. This bike, like every other bike I own, is going to be protected by ride wrap. Ride wrap is a protective film that you apply on the frame to keep your investment looking new, and it also makes cleaning the bike easier. Normally I would have done it as the bike was new, but when I received the bike, my priority was to ride, get comfortable and film, so I didn't have time to do that. But by the time you're watching this video and ordering your Spindrift, the tailored kit from Ride Wrap is already available, so make sure you check out the link down below. That's about it with the bike check. Thank you for watching that video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like it, and leave me a comment with what you thought of the bike. I'm gonna try to answer to every comment and every question you may have on this bike. And also, if you subscribe to the channel, there's some exciting stuff coming. We've got plenty of riding video. I'm actually, as this video is coming out, I'll probably still be on a trip in BC, and it's gonna be some awesome riding. So make sure you tune in, and I'll see you next week.